today we have Mr. Harlen Wheatley, Master Distiller, and we're going to walk through some new expansions and give you some updates. Harlen.
Yeah, we have these signs around the distillery. We have big plans to make more bourbon. And one of the things we've talked about over the last couple of years now is the fact that we're going to continue to expand. We're going to invest a lot of money to be able to have more capacity, make more bourbon, and put more bourbon out there on the marketplace. So we're in the middle of the biggest expansion this distillery's ever seen. And today we're going to talk a little bit about one of the biggest projects that we got going on. And a lot of people don't really realize it, but with every time you make bourbon, you have leftover product, and you take the corn, you ferment, distill, and what's left behind, you have to do something with it, and you have to dry that product. So we're investing over $50 million on a dry house operation, so we can dry the grain once we're done with it. So This is just kind of a layout, and one of the things we have, it's basically 3 different sets of operations. And the first part of it is, the important part is the centrifuges. And we take the leftover spent grain and we run it through centrifuges and separate that from the process into a thick and a thin. Once it becomes thick and a thin, then the thick part goes to dryers, rotary dryers, which we'll get to see a little bit later. And the thin part goes over to an evaporation system where we evaporate the water out of it. And really what's left behind is a very nutrient-filled, high-protein feed that we use for cattle and poultry. So we have nothing wasted. So all the raw ingredients that come in, natural ingredients from farms, we turn that into whiskey, and what's left over, we turn into a feed back to the cattle.
Okay. So nothing's really wasted at all.
Right. We'll walk over to the dry house and take a look at a little bit of what we got going on.
All right. So in the process of making bourbon, we've gone over fermentation and distillation. I'm assuming this is actually at the very end. This is the very end of the process? It's not bottling and shipping and all that, but it's...
Yeah, we at the very end, that's the last part of the process. We call it a byproduct, and we use that, like I said, for feed, and it's the last thing we do. Of course, we load it in, comes in by truck. All of our grain comes in by truck, and all the feed goes out by truck. So we'll load out 3 to 5 semi-loads of feed every single day. The cool thing about this project was the fact that we are on the National Historic Landmarks, and we have to preserve our buildings, and we want to preserve our buildings and the look and feel of the place. So this is a 1800s warehouse that we're converting to a state-of-the-art dry house. So we renovated all the brick and all the windows and kept all that in place. So if we walk on over, we'll check it out.
So before the plans for a dry house was up to these plans, was this aging barrels up until recently? Or?
Well, it was an aging warehouse for barrels, but we vacated it about 20 years ago because the ricks were too small on the inside and we couldn't store enough barrels inside. So because due to the age, we had to either renovate it back to a barrel warehouse or utilize it for something else. So we decided we were going to build our warehouses elsewhere and then utilize this warehouse for our dry house. So.
That's great. I love that you kept the integrity of the building. I mean, it looks like, obviously, it's been here for a long time. Is there other buildings that this matches as far as like age?
Yeah, this is old warehouse B.
Okay.
And we of course had a warehouse A, which would have been our first warehouse, and we turned that into, that's what we use currently as our gift shop. And
Gotcha.
And warehouse B now will be the dry house, and we still have a warehouse C, and warehouse C is directly across from the gift shop, and we're utilizing that for our barrels, and it's one of our better warehouses. It's actually E.H. Taylor's warehouse, warehouse C.
So lots of construction, lots of projects going on back here. I haven't been back here in a while just because of so much construction. just as we're walking by, what's all the structure right in front of you now outside of the dry house?
Yeah, what we're doing here is part of the expansion is they're building new tanks for our slop and our spent grain. Those will go in, two 100,000 gallon tanks. All the structure above that will be the piping that connects the still house to the new dry house. So we'll have all that steam, water, and setback going back to the dry house.
Gotcha. And I know we're right on the river on the back over here. What's the river utilized for mostly on this side of the distillery?
Yeah, for us, the river is very important. There's a few things you got to have to have a successful distillery, and the first thing is water. And we are sitting right on the Kentucky River, and we utilize all that water for our cooling systems, and it's really efficient. Does a good job for us, and plentiful. That's the main thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's so neat to walk into an old, aging warehouse that's been reconstructed for something else. It's really unique.
So we're inside, and if you look here, this is still our original floors of our warehouse, the floor numbers. So we've got 4 floors in this. We did have 4 floors in this warehouse, and we had to completely dismantle all the ricks inside, and of course redo the whole inside, refirm up the bricks on the outside, and now we're able to utilize it. So where we're standing here is going to be where the trucks are loaded. So all the feed will be loaded into the trucks, and that's what all this is for.
Okay. So if I'm a farmer, I can back in a truck, or is that going to a bigger company that farmers then get their feed from?
We do a little bit of both, but most of it is co-ops, larger, because they're picking up truckloads at a time. Farmers do too, but usually farmers have smaller trucks, and
right.
We're doing semi-loads at a time.
Yeah.
So.
I'm gonna go ahead and say it's going to be a little loud in here. It's definitely a working construction site, so go ahead and let everyone know.
So as the setback comes in off the still, it'll come in and go through the centrifuges, and they're upstairs, and we'll see those last. We'll kind of walk through the process.
Okay.
And that's where it gets separated.
So is it just like, describe what spent grain is, or what is it kind of like oatmeal, or what's the consistency of it?
Yeah, it's a consistency of oatmeal, but it's left over from the whiskey process, and it's all the grains, and of course all the water, after it's cooked, and that's what's left over, and then you dry that solids into the feed. So all you're doing down here, the whole process is to eliminate water out of the system.
Gotcha.
So these are the dryers. They're almost 50 foot long, 10 foot diameter, rotary style dryers.
I think I've seen something like this in Back to the Future.
Yeah.
It's on the back of a DeLorean at one point.
Yeah, some people call them missiles.
Wow. And is that pressure, or is that just heat? How is that heated?
We've got steam heat that go through the tubes. That's what all those tubes are on the back, and the tubes deliver the heat inside.
Okay.
And the whole thing turns just like a dryer at your house, and as the feed enters the back, it'll make its way to the front. There's a slope on it, and it takes about an hour and a half to get from one side to the other. By the time it's about 30% moisture as it goes in, about 10% as it goes out.
So a big tumbler with steam heat. Makes sense.
Yeah, we'll go upstairs.
Okay.
These are our evaporators, and like I said, when it runs through the centrifuge, the thinner part of the spent grain comes to the evaporators, and the way this works is the thin enters the top, and then as it runs down the tubes, the heat that we use to dry that syrup down, and by the time we're down to the bottom and we're done with the process, it's about 30% solids.
little loud here, but
A little loud.
Harlan. Good. So Harlan, quick question. You've probably already touched on it, but between the thins and the thicks, is that just solids versus some of the
Right.
like
It just
you
runs
squeeze
through,
it out?
Yeah, it runs through a screen, and the screen is real fine. Basically, the centrifuge forces it through there, and then all the liquid goes into the thin, doesn't have the solids, and that's what the evaporators do.
Okay, I got you. And where does that separation process happen again?
And the centrifuges, we'll go there last.
Okay, gotcha.
So that's what this is all for.
Wow.
This is 750 horsepower. What this does, it compresses the vapor off of the evaporator and it delivers energy, and that's what really gives it the energy and dries our evaporator. So it's a 750 horsepower vapor compressor, basically.
Wow. And compared to what we had before?
Well, we had a little different technology. This is a little bit more efficient, a little better technology than we had before. We had a multiple stage evaporator system, which works well, but a little bit less efficient than what we're doing
Gotcha.
now.
And the amount, like, obviously we didn't have an entire building like this dedicated to it, so the scale of this has got to be much bigger.
Right, a little bit bigger operation, yep.
Okay.
We've got duplicate systems. Another 750 horse. The next time you visit, we'll have to hopefully have all this hooked up, but we're in the middle of hooking up all the electric, all the piping, and get this thing operational. And the plans are to have this up and operational by fall of next year.
Fall of next year. And in the meantime, the old system is doing its job, right?
Right.
Still kicking.
Yeah, we're still running.
I'm going to take a little look right here. Before you walk off, Harlan, I'm going to take a look from here.
We'll take a quick peek over here. We'll head back over there in a minute.
Okay. He said, come on. We got to climb this ladder?
No.
Okay.
This is just the, when all of it's said and done, we'll take, this is called the feed floor, and we'll take that feed and we'll pile it up, and then we'll take a bobcat and we'll load that feed into those hoppers in the floor, and those hoppers are what loads the truck. So we'll, like I said, we'll load anywhere from 3 to 5 semi-loads a day of the feed.
That'll just lay right on the floor?
It'll be on the floor, yep. All this will be sealed in the middle of it.
Hey, before we, it's a little quieter over here, but I think we're doing okay on sound, but I've got a question. Ben in Idaho says, asks, is the new Dryhouse going to increase capacity of what you put out at all, or just make it all new? Is it just basically
No, it's increasing capacity. We're not shutting down our old Dryhouse. We're going to continue to run that. We built that Dryhouse in 1942, and we have no plans of shutting it down. And this is just a bolt-on operation, so we're going to expand our, capability, by adding this Dryhouse. So, if you notice on this wall over here, of course it's original walls, but we retuck pointed all the brick, redid all the windows, and we still got the warehouse floors there.
Yeah, you can see it good here.
It's just a renovation of something old. Kind of works out nice as far as design.
It does. It looks really, really great. I'm going to ask you a few questions here, if you don't mind. So I think you just answered Becky's question, Becky Waddell. Will the old system still be utilized? So you just answered that. The answer is yes. Kevin Ziegler asked, why do you use steam heat if the ultimate goal is to remove water? Ooh, that's a good question.
That's a good question, but the steam heat is all non-contact. So we'll have steam heat going through tubes, and all that's non-contact to the product.
That makes sense.
So we're not really adding steam heat to the process.
Yeah, it's just heating up the tubes.
Right.
Okay, great.
Go ahead this way. It's a little better view over here.
Okay.
That's your step.
I kind of showed it off a little bit.
Yeah.
My fault. So pretty unique to be in here right now with no roof.
So this will be our control room where we'll control everything from here. We'll be able to see both dryer operations, both evaporators. The centrifuges are straight across, which we'll walk over there in a minute. But everything will be controlled by, from here.
So good view of everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can see these. What are these called again?
Evaporators.
Evaporators. You can really see these a lot
Yeah,
better.
we'll go over there and get a little better
Two
view.
big ones. Okay.
Even better yet.
Pretty good view here.
Yeah.
I like the light.
Yeah. Let's go over here.
I mean, it's a massive project. I mean, you can see there's no roof. You're raising the roof. And so you're raising that roof to get those in.
Yeah, it's a pretty good, we had to raise just a section of the roof. It's mezzanine above the evaporators. So like I said, all the thin is done over there. We dry it, take the water out of the thin, and we actually add that thin back to the feed that we dry out of this, out of these dryers, and that fortifies that feed into, more nutrients and better quality.
I got you. So you're not removing a lot of the quality then?
We just remove water.
You just remove water.
Yeah.
So I can see why the farmers and the cattle love it. Yeah, these things are enormous. I mean, the footage right now doesn't do it justice. So. It's great. And so fall 2022 should be all wrapped up. You didn't warn me about the catwalk there.
It does have a weight limit.
Yeah, I know.
This is a pretty good view for the whole operation. And then, like I said, on the other side there was the feed floor.
Yeah, just on the other side of that white wall. So that's the last part of the process right there then.
Yep.
And then it gets dumped.
Onto the truck.
Yep.
We're out of here.
Goes on the floor, goes in the truck, goes in the bellies.
This is a pretty important part of the operation from an environmental standpoint. So all of the escaping air that comes out of the dry house is run through basically a combustion chamber. Everything is, volatilized and burned before it escapes into the atmosphere.
Okay.
So that's what this is.
I mean, that looks like an impressive piece of equipment.
We call it the concern box.
The concern box?
Yeah.
That makes sense. All right. I have a feeling this might be going to be off limits to guests.
No, they can come in.
Yeah? Maybe not.
We have, these are the centrifuges, so all the spent grain comes in. This turns at about 3,600 RPMs, and as it turns, it separates that thin, from the thick, and then that's what we do with the dryers and the evaporators.
Gotcha. So really,
we got two of them.
At home, it's like your washing machine. You put it at the end of the cycle, it spins it, the water goes out of the washer,
yep.
And you take out the solids and put them in the dryer.
Exactly right.
Okay,
yep.
Got it. Makes sense. And there's two of these. Dang. I got to say, Harlan, this is one of the least, I have no experience in a dry house like this. These look smaller. Like, it feels like you have to do a lot of work with these two compared to the size of all that other equipment.
Yeah, really all you're doing is taking that stream. It's about a 6-inch pipe that comes in, and you take that stream and you're just separating it. So there's not as much work you're not eliminating any water, you're just separating the two streams. So it's not as much work that goes into the evaporators and dryers. It takes more volume and more energy to remove that water.
Gotcha. Is it like continuously fed?
Continuously. Yeah.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's getting continuous, it's coming in, it's spinning off, the water's...
Right.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense why they're not so big.
So once that feed is made, like we walked in, we'll load it onto these trucks. The trucks will drive out,
Yeah,
and that's the end of it.
that's great. So I got to ask too, I would think most people are curious, after it's gone through this process, is there any remnants of alcohol or
No.
bourbon or anything?
No, we'd be upset if that was happening.
I was wondering.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We try to get all of it out. You know, you know, it's all alcohol free, of course.
Yeah.
And then all the starch and everything's pretty much completely gone. You know, other than maybe a residual
Yeah.
of starch, but it's all gone and converted.
Yeah,
You know, by the
okay.
time it comes down here.
So what about like proteins and things like that? That's all.
Protein is big, so you know, the protein on the feed. That's what the farmers, you know, need that for their cattle, and it's a really good source for protein. They'll mix that with hay and all the different grains that they use.
Yeah, great. So we got quite a few questions. I know we're already taking up a bunch of your time. I think this might be good a place as any to ask a few questions. So let me go through these. I haven't had a chance to sort of walk through them. Well, Paul Holsley says, is the ultimate goal with this expansion to put more bottles on store shelves?
Oh yeah, that's the whole purpose of the. You know, we have a $1.2 billion expansion where we're putting warehousing, cooking, fermenting, distilling, and then drying as part of the. We have to do something with that byproduct. So it's all, the whole process is designed to make more whiskey, put more whiskey in barrels, and then eventually more whiskey into the bottles. So that's the driver behind it, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Does this mean, let's see, so I'm not exactly sure, Carl Smith, what the question means, but he does ask, does this mean more capacity for the distillery? I'm assuming just more production.
Yeah, so what it allows us to do is we're building a new still house, and in order to fire up that new still house, we have to do something with that byproduct. So it allows us to run, you know, more distillation, more cooking, more fermenting, and you have to have something to do with that byproduct. So it does allow us to do that.
So what we've learned over all these expansion Whiskey Wednesdays is you can't really expand on one thing. If you expand on fermenting, you got to expand on distillation.
That's
you got to
right.
expand your warehouses.
Yeah,
and then now we're learning you got to expand here.
It's like
as well.
a train. All the cars are coupled together, and we have to you know, work on each one of them.
Yeah. So big domino effect.
Yeah,
Want more whiskey? You got to expand everywhere.
that's right.
So I think we're about wrapped up
Yeah.
here. Unless there's anything else you want to show
Come
us.
look at the dryers room.
Yeah. Let's do that. Oh yeah, that's a good shot. Dang. Yeah.
That's the guy down there is Jeff Reamer. He's in charge of the construction operation. He's doing a great job. He would love to talk to y'all.
Probably love to know he's live
Yes.
right now too. He has no idea actually. So, and before he gestures something up to us, I'll move to a view over here. No, those are incredible. It's really incredible sight to see. I've seen this project going on in the background for months and months, and a lot of people ask, what are we doing with that old warehouse? What are we doing with the old aging warehouse? And I think this is a really neat way to restore and keep, you know, keep the essence of the distillery. So it reminds me of honor tradition and embrace
Honor
change.
tradition, embrace change. That's right.
That's right.
We live by it.
Any closing statements at all, Harlan?
Well, I appreciate giving you the tour and just giving you a little bit of insight on what all goes into expansion and what we're doing to make more bourbon. You know,
Yeah.
put more bourbon in the market. So.
Yeah, a lot more coming, that's for sure.
Yeah.
All right, well, thank you. I
problem.
appreciate it.